Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette. We're back here on this Friday morning to recap the first week of Nebraska Football Fall Camp. We've got some unfortunate injury news and some updates that we're going to pass along there, as well as some depth chart updates, some updates on special teams, wide receiver, tight end, the offensive line battle. We're going to look back at all of that stuff, everything that's been covered here in the first week of Fall Camp. So if you haven't already, please do us a huge favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section, let us know what you think about the first week of Nebraska Football Fall Camp. And Danny, how are you on this fine Friday morning?
I'm doing well. Busy time of year. We got the NFL preseason starting last night. We have a bunch of fall camp notes, and football is in full swing, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and we are now, it's today, August 1st, so 28 days away from the Nebraska football season. Now, I guess 27, since yesterday was a Thursday. So 4 weeks from yesterday, we will see the Huskers play the Cincinnati Bearcats at Arrowhead Stadium. I cannot wait for that to happen. But we do have this week, Nebraska's got through their first week of fall practice. So let's look back at some of the things that have happened there and some unfortunate news that was released on Thursday, which kind of started trickling out. There were lots of rumblings about the Mac Markway injury, but Matt Rule confirmed it before his press conference on Thursday. A re-tear, it sounds like, of the ACL. Matt Rule said he wasn't sure exactly what to call it. There's definitely a lot of questions probably about the future of Mac Markway. He's not going to play this season for Nebraska. Maybe he'll never play football again. What do you think that this means? As disappointing as it is for Mac Markway, hopefully, I wish him the best in the future. But what does it mean for this team and this tight end room in the 2025 season?
I feel like, Markway was going to be a solid depth piece. We still have Carter Nelson, Luke Lindmeyer, and Heinrich Harburg. I'd say this maybe shifts more responsibility to Nelson and Lindmeyer. But this could also mean that another fourth tight end could step up and make an impact. I still like the depth at the tight end room, but I'm just really bummed for Markway. And honestly, with how young he is and his injury history already, I would maybe consider, hanging up the cleats for good. Save your body. You're still young. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just such a tough situation. And you see these injuries all the time with tight ends. I mean, look at Thomas Fedoni. He struggled with injuries during his time at Nebraska. So, I mean, this is just unfortunate. I think the depth will be okay. I still think we have a really good tight end room, but I'm really bummed for Markway.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer. Matt Rule said he was disappointed. Obviously for Mac Markway, he looked really good, but just something appeared off. Dana Holgerson said he looked a little bit off when running one of his routes, and so yeah, it could be a long road ahead for him. He'll have to make a decision if he wants to continue playing football. For Nebraska, though, it does take a guy out of the room that was very promising. Markway started a game at LSU when he was a true freshman. He made some contributions there, and based on what he was able to do so far in fall camp and in the offseason, it seemed like he was about to make a contribution for the Huskers this season. So now you look at the tight end room, you've still got Luke Lindenmeyer, who played well at the end of last season, Heinrich Harburg, who's transitioned to playing tight end full time, and Carter Nelson, who's now 6'5", 240 pounds. Hasn't played college tight end though before. Is a great athlete, though. Did catch a touchdown last year as kind of a slot receiver. So what are your thoughts on this tight end room moving forward, minus Mac Markway?
I still like it. I still feel like Nelson is going to have to take a lot of the responsibility. And with Nelson's injury history, that may be a tough ask. I mean, we'll see if he can make it through the rest of the season. But I wanted to kind of ask you this. What do you think about a guy like Eric Ingwerson, the redshirt freshman? Do you think this allows an opportunity for a guy like him to kind of slide in at that 4 spot?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much, how many snaps are going to be played beyond those top three guys.
Yeah.
I know Carter Nelson played a lot on special teams last year, so I think Markway probably and Nelson would have played this year just because they're high level players. I'm not sure Ingerson is there quite yet. I think he'll probably need a little bit more time developing, but we'll see what he can do kind of on special teams. There probably will be a bigger need for him, in that area now that like a guy like Carter Nelson's probably going to see more snaps, I would say, with the offense.
Yeah, as long as Carter Nelson holds up, I still feel like this could be a promising tight end room. I'm expecting a big season from Nelson. And he's definitely bulked up in a good way over the course of the offseason. So I'm expecting a big year from him. And, Luke Lindenmeyer may not be necessarily an explosive weapon, but he's a very, dependable guy. And we saw that at the end of last year. So I'm expecting Nelson and Lindmeyer to kind of take the majority of the receptions at the position.
Ingerson is an interesting name to watch, though. 6'7", 255, only played in one game last season. So, yeah, if there's anybody that this kind of opens the door for, I would say it's him, because I think that, obviously Carter Nelson already had a role on this team. So, whether it's as an extra blocker or, somebody who can play a bigger role on special teams, Ingerson will, I think, have a chance to at least see more snaps going forward. So hopefully he can take advantage of that opportunity and kind of, take a negative thing for Mac Markway, turn it into a positive, I guess, for him. So, Dana Holgorsen, I thought, did make some interesting comments. He talked a little bit about the tight end room, but I thought the more interesting things that he said were about, the wide receiver room. Essentially that, Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney are two of the starters. He said Isaiah Hunter was right there, but that he still kind of had some work to do. Keelan Smith, Quinn Clark were some other names that got mentioned yesterday. So what are your thoughts on the wide receiver room based on Dana Holgorsen's assessments?
I think it's interesting that he said Isaiah Hunter had some work to do, because I kind of penciled him in maybe as a starter, but I'm fine with Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney. And, we saw what Holgorsen was able to do with Barney, using him more traditionally out wide than for the infamous jet sweeps that Marcus Satterfield liked to run. So if we can get that Ja'Cory Barney, I mean, I am all for that. And Dane Key obviously is a no-brainer. I mean, he's going to be a big-time playmaker, and he loves Dylan Raiola. So I feel very comfortable with how this wide receiver room is shaping up.
Yeah, it did surprise me, I guess, a little bit with Isaiah Hunter, but sometimes, people just because a guy, is going to transfer in, and just because he had certain production, a year ago, doesn't mean he's going to have that same production at Nebraska. And one thing to note, I mean, about Cal, it's just interesting because their quarterback transferred to Oklahoma, their running back transferred to Oklahoma, and Isaiah Hunter transferred. So it's like they have this collection of talent, but they were just 6-7 last year. So there's obviously, if all those guys were like, major impactful players, they probably would have been better last season. So, maybe there is a little bit of a, kind of a jump up in competition, maybe going to the Big Ten. So we'll see. I still think Isaiah Hunter is going to have a big season, and he definitely, I think, can add. I think he's more of a home run threat, I would say, than Dane Key. Not that I don't think Dane Key can get deep, but Isaiah Hunter's that's kind of one of the things he does. That's one of his specialties. So I would look for him for him to do that. And if you look at Hunter, Barney, and Key, that's still a really productive and talented top three. All three of those guys, I think, had over 40 receptions, last season for major programs. So a lot to like in the receiver room. Quinn Clark is the guy that I kind of have my eye on as well. Keelan Smith, we talked about him the other day, a really productive high school career. So I like that room moving forward. It doesn't shock me, though, with Barney being here last year, that he has a little bit of a leg up. And we talked about it the other day. They set the freshman record for Nebraska in receptions. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you predicted him to be all Big Ten or second team or whatever, all Big Ten. So, yeah, I mean, do you think there's a chance he has more yards or receptions this year than Dane Key?
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, Barney kind of has that speedy ability that Dane Key doesn't have. And that's not a knock on Dane Key. Dane Key is a very good wide receiver. Barney is just more of a straight speedster. And, it's really interesting, because when you look how this wide receiver room was remade in the offseason, and you look at Dana Holgorsen's comments now, he's become very clear, Holgorsen has, and what he wants and how he wants his wide receiver room to kind of go and function. And so I trust him as it relates to, kind of keeping Isaiah Hunter in the background for a little bit. I wouldn't have trusted Marcus Satterfield, let's be honest here. So the Hunter move, just to go back to that, was a little bit of a head scratcher at the time, but I trust Holgorsen and what he sees in Hunter's development.
And then the wide receiver room looking really good. Before we get to, I guess, one other thing I wanted to mention, we have on there as a bullet point that special teams will be a weapon. And I thought it was notable that Ja'Cory Barney mentioned in his press conference on Thursday that he wants to lead the nation in punt returns. So we know who the punt returner is going to be, Ja'Cory Barney, and I do think that instead of special teams being like, oh, we're just going to try to fair catch the ball or maybe only lose like 10 yards because we didn't catch it and watch it dribble back, instead of punt return being like a net negative for this team, I think it'll finally be, maybe since DeMornay Pearson, maybe it'll be a weapon, maybe it'll be a positive thing. I'm excited to see. I still think Andrew Marshall's probably going to get a chance to be the kick returner. I mean, if they've got a starting receiver as the punt returner, I have no idea why they wouldn't use Andrew Marshall as the kick returner. So I just think it's going to be different this season. I think because of Mike Eckler, it just feels like to me that special teams will actually be a weapon for Nebraska instead of like a massive hindrance always.
I mean, and Tennessee's punt return was among the best in the country, ranking in the top 2 in the SEC, and averaging about 13.9 yards per game under Mike Eckler. So, and let me just say this. I understand fans are a little bit worried about Ja'Cory Barney returning kicks due to the increased nature of injuries, but to me, leaving that speed, on the table and not at least experimenting with Barney on punt returns would be a mistake. So I'm glad that he is going to be more active in the return game. I understand why fans want to be a little bit cautious, but I think it's just too good of an opportunity to pass up.
Yeah, and he's just too good of a player. And I mean, just field position, all those. When you are in really close games, which Nebraska is going to be. I mean, I think every team in the Big Ten is going to be. That third of the game, special teams really matters. And too many times Nebraska has just ceded field position and, oh, we're not going to return the punt. Or, I mean, how many times have we seen them just fair catch it? And like when there was, what looked like room to return. Now, it's not going to work out every time, but Ja'Cory Barney, I guarantee you, will find a way to make some plays in the return game, and that's going to make the job easier for the offense. And like I get the whole thing about injury, but at the same time, I feel like if that's your best way to produce on special teams, you have to take that chance. So I mean, sure, you want to be careful with it, but I don't really know as a returner. I mean, like, I get that guys are running down there a little bit faster. I do think that there's more injuries, but honestly, it's probably more the blockers, like in the kickoff and kickoff return. And I mean, I do think the injury factor is increased, but I think it's a little overblown. I mean, you could blow out a knee on any play, whether it's a catch, whether it's you can do it against the air. So I mean, you can't coach and play scared based on injury. Especially, I just feel like this team needs to start pressing, and try to get little advantages here or there. And to be fair, I mean, look how many years that Iowa has just owned Nebraska in the hidden yardage battle with special teams. I mean, 2 years ago, that was a huge difference maker in that game, just the punting, because our guys, couldn't field the ball and couldn't return the ball. So all that yardage makes a big difference. So if Nebraska can be, if they can go from, I mean, last year they were probably like, if you graded them on special teams, they probably got like a D. I mean, honestly, like the kicking game was not good. I would say the return game wasn't good, but at least the coverage was decent. Maybe they even get an F, but if they can get that grade up to like a C or a B this year, even an A, that's going to make a lot bigger difference than people realize.
I give them an F because, they fair caught it. They let it bounce. I still remember the Iowa game. I believe it was in the second half when they accidentally touched a kick and then Iowa recovered it, I believe it was, and that was a major turning point in the game, if you recall. I don't know if I'm recalling the events completely correctly, but I mean, even if we just got a little bit of return yards in the punt and kick return game, that would be a step up from where we've been for the past, quite frankly, since the Scott Frost era, 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, so we'll see how that works out. Yeah, I'm still interested to see if Andrew Marshall is the kick returner, if they have somebody else in mind there. The other thing too, before we switch over to some offensive line talk, there's some more injury stuff. Quentin Ives has been banged up, so he's not really taking part in practice right now. I think that that's probably going to have an impact on the running back competition. We'll see how long he's going to miss. Demetrius Bell is still kind of dealing with injuries, so he really isn't practicing right now either, I don't believe. So, that's kind of something to monitor. Is you don't want to say injury prone, but it seems like, at some point you have to find a way to get on the field. And he's still rehabbing and all that stuff, but seems like that's taking a little bit longer maybe than expected.
Well, I feel like it's kind of like Markaway. He's just gonna have to deal with injuries throughout his career, and I really hope he gets on the field. Meaning Bell. Bell's an explosive playmaker. So we'll see how that progresses, and I hope. I remember Bell being an explosive player out of high school, so I'm hoping he gets on the field. But it just seems like every year he's dealing with an unfortunate injury.
And then the offensive line was another thing that Dana Holgerson mentioned. We'll get to that here in just a second. But what the comment that he made that stood out to me was about the offensive tackles, and he didn't really, shed light on who's going to start or play. I don't think. However, he did say that I feel a lot better about the offensive tackle room than I did last season with Elijah Pritchett, the development of Tyler Knack, having Teddy Prohashka back healthy. So I thought that was notable. And then looking at this competition and kind of what it could look like, here's kind of what I've got put together. So at left tackle, you've got Pritchett or Gunnar Gatula. I think Leftoski is pretty much set at guard there. Justin Evans is set, I believe. Rocco Spinler, and then Tyler Knack, Gatula, or Teddy Prohashka. So I don't know. What do you think about that offensive line? What's your projected starting five from this first week of fall camp?
You asking for game one projected starting line? Because I think I could change.
Yeah, game one.
Gatula, Latovsky, Evans, Spindler, and Knack. Knack has been getting quite a bit of run over the course of this first week here, so I think he's going to be the starter when all is said and done, maybe for the entire season.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting if Nebraska ends up sitting Elijah Pritchett, who I have to believe was their highest paid addition in the transfer portal. I mean, maybe Williams Nawari, but he just didn't have a ton of production. But he could have been up there. I could buy that. But if it's either got to be Nawari or Elijah Pritchett, so that would
I was
be
going to
pretty
say
interesting.
Spindler, but
no, I don't. Maybe I don't think so though.
Coming from a college football playoff team, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I really don't think a guard would get paid more than a tackle, to be honest. I think he did
True.
get paid. I think Nebraska did overpay for Rocco Spinler. Like, I know they paid a lot more than like Michigan and some other programs were willing to. So maybe that's possible. But I just think based on positional value, it's probably Pritchett. But I mean, right there still. But yeah, it would still would be surprising to me if he doesn't start. I still think Elijah Pritchett will end up starting on the left side. I think Gatula might end up starting on the right side. I think they might. I think I think that Pritchett and Gatula are going to be the starting tackles the first week of the season. But who knows? There's a lot of guys in the mix, and you need 3 or 4 guys to play there. We've seen that before. So that's they talked about you need 10 guys, and you do kind of need that. So like Grant Bricks. Gibson Pyle are, some other names that I think in the mix. So yeah, I feel pretty good about the offensive line, however it shakes out. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't count out Knack or Teddy Prohashka. I could see that right tackle position, or even both of them. I could see that competition kind of going into the season to see how it plays out.
Absolutely, and this is a good problem to have. Nebraska, has some depth on the offensive line, and I'm very curious to see what Prohashka can contribute this season. He's in a position where he doesn't necessarily have to contribute right away now, so maybe that will help him. But overall, I like the way this line looks. I really do.
Do you like this offensive line as much as Rocco Spinler does? That's maybe the question, because in his press conference on Thursday, he said some pretty interesting things. He obviously, played for Notre Dame last year, which they made the college football playoff national championship game. They won 3 playoff games. They don't play in a conference, but Rocco Spinler has been very he's given a lot of high praise, I would say, to Nebraska so far this season. So he said, like, there's no reason in his mind that Nebraska can't do what Notre Dame did last year. He's even said he thinks that this team is more talented than the Notre Dame team last year that made it to the national championship. I mean, I have to say, I don't think that he's anywhere close to being accurate on that. I think he's kind of blowing smoke. I mean, if you look at any sort of metric, I mean, Notre Dame last year was 70% blue. Their blue chip ratio is 72% or something. Nebraska is is probably, I don't even know what it is. It's not even anywhere within the realm of national championship contention. So, I mean, I think he's being a little over optimistic there. But on Thursday, he did say that he thinks this can be a Joe Moore caliber offensive line, the Joe Moore Award being the best offensive line in college football. We just looked at the depth chart. Regardless of how that starting group kind of plays out, do you think that there's any hope of Nebraska being in contention for the Joe Moore Award, or do you think that Rocco Spinler is just being a little optimistic here?
A little optimistic, but I could see this being a very, very good offensive line. I could see a case where this could be the best offensive line that we've had in 4 or 5 years. But either way, I like the energy, I like the optimism, and he's establishing himself as a veteran leader on the line, which I love too. So I do think this offensive line has a chance to be really good, and I think a great year from this offensive line will also be a notch in the belt for Donovan Raiola.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, looking back at it, Michigan kind of came out of nowhere and won it in 2021. So it definitely is possible. Um, I'm trying to think back on that team. I don't know if they had like a ton of first round picks, maybe one or two, or maybe a couple of draft picks. But I think Rocco Spindler is an NFL player.
Yeah.
Look, Pritchett has been, talked about as a potential first round pick. I know just projections, but as a potential first round pick, based on all of his traits. I think Justin Evans, not this year, but next year, I think will be an NFL player. Loftoski, I think, has a chance to be an NFL player. So, you've got 3-4 NFL caliber guys there. I think there's some quality depth.
I think Petula can be too with some more development.
Yeah, and if you have to go to Bricks or Gibson Pyle, Preston Taumua, there's some other guys in there that, are blue chip caliber recruits, or, like Gibson Pyle was a 3-star, but he was a fairly high 3-star, and as a former offensive tackle, I think as a guard, he will play much better. So I feel really good about the offensive line, and this interior I think is really strong with Evans, Spindler, and Loftoski. I know they're losing 2 of those guys after this season, but if say you've got Grant Bricks and Gibson Pyle ready to step in next year to be the starters. And I mean, if Grant Bricks has to wait till his 3rd year in the program to be a starter, I think that tells you right there where the development of this offensive line is.
And they have some offensive linemen in the 2026 class that they can kind of continue the pipeline and continue the development. So I think overall the offensive line is in the best shape it's been in years.
If you have Pritchett, hopefully he plays well this year. Like, I mean, you don't want him to leave, but for the NFL draft, so like hopefully that doesn't come to fruition. But if you're able to get him to play and be your left tackle theoretically for the next 2 years, you'd have Claude Mpuma would come on campus as a freshman next year, so you could potentially have him, ready to take over when he's a redshirt freshman or as a sophomore, depending on how many games he played that season. So he could be kind of your guy waiting in the wings. So yeah, and I think they've got some other good players even in that 2024 class. They took some added offensive linemen. So they loaded up with some bigger classes, and we'll see how all those guys kind of develop. But I don't expect Nebraska to win the Joe Moore award this year, but I do think they will have one of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten.
Honestly, I kind of do want Pritchett to leave for the NFL draft, because if he's good enough and he can get drafted, and be highly regarded in that way, then that just brings more visibility for the position to the program. You know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword, but I wouldn't mind it. That would be huge for this program as it tries to recruit some of the bigger linemen in the Midwest.
I mean, yeah, that would be good to have that happen, but I also wouldn't mind, because then you'd be going into Dylan Raiola's junior season without, you'd have to go to the transfer portal, which is always, a bit risky. And I think with teams, the way that they have these collectives and with I just don't think you're going to see as many, quality players going into the transfer portal as we have these past few seasons. So I mean, so I think it's, there'll be other players, but hopefully, like if he's good enough, I think they need to do everything they can from an NIL perspective to try to keep him here.
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't mind him back at all. I was just saying that, like, if he was drafted, then that would be a positive, especially when you consider, the offensive lineman and the lack of development in recent years on the unit in total, not just at a specific position.
No, I mean, but it would be it would be sweet to see a Nebraska offensive lineman drafted in the first round again. He
Yeah,
probably has the best chance of anybody on the team right now. So yeah, it would be great. His development will be key. His development's going to be then that entire offensive line. Their play is going to be key in fostering elite play from Dylan Raiola this season. So yeah, a lot of exciting things happening. Not a ton of chatter, I guess, about the defense. Maybe we'll get probably get John Butler to the podium maybe next week. So I mean, just when you have the offensive coordinator and the head coach, it tends to
yeah,
be a little more leaning toward the offense. And honestly, there's just not. I don't have as many questions about the defense. Maybe a little bit about the
yeah.
defensive line and the pass
Me
rush,
neither.
but I think I think the secondary is better. I think the linebackers are better, and I do think the defensive line will be just as good as it was last year.
The secondary is miles better from where it was last year, I think. I mean, just in terms of depth and overall talent, I don't think that's a bold thing to say. I feel really, really comfortable with the secondary depth, and I feel comfortable with John Butler as defensive coordinator. But let me ask you this, because I saw fans debating this on my page, and I'm sure your page too. Fans are kind of still iffy on Donovan Raiola. What are your thoughts on him as offensive line coach as we take stock before the 2025 season? Because I've seen mixed opinion.
I've been happy with his work. I mean, I think the
I have
offensive
too.
line has improved since he got here, especially since Matt Rule got here. I mean, the first year with Scott Frost, it was kind of like there was some question marks, but there was also reporting that they kind of had different philosophies on the offensive line. I remember there was when Matt Rule decided to keep him, there was talk that their kind of philosophies or their coaching mindset kind of gelled and matched together, and I think that's been a great marriage. And you look at I mean, we want to give like Matt Rule credit for Bryce Benhart being better, but who really probably should deserve the credit for that? Donovan Raiola, right? He's the guy in the trenches with him every day, and he
Mm,
definitely improved. I think Justin Evans has improved. Latowski's improved. Gunnar Gatula last year started 10 games as a redshirt freshman at left
mhm,
tackle because of all the injuries. So I mean, he's he was I would say hampered by a room that was filled with recruits that underachieved. I mean, whether it was injuries or whatever, there were guys that underachieved who were recruited by the previous staff, and I think he has done a good job of getting the most out of them, and I feel like he's done a good job at building that pipeline. So I think this year and the next couple of years we're going to keep seeing this offensive line trending upwards. So I'm fully endorsing Donovan Raiola, and I hope he gets another contract extension to stay here. To be honest,
I agree. I just feel like the offensive line is a lightning rod for a talking
for
point,
sure.
and I've been happy with the work that he's done, and I've been happy with, like you said, the development, and I'll be interested to see how he does this year because there's a lot of new faces, but a lot more experience in terms of Pritchett, Spindler coming in. You have Justin Evans again. You have Gattulo, who had a big role, like you said, last year. So it's more of a veteran offensive line this year. So I'm curious to see how he does and how the line does.
Yeah, I mean, five guys that essentially started double-digit games last year for Nebraska or somebody else. So that's a pretty good starting point. And then yeah, so Saturday, what we've got the Big Red Preview, is that what they're calling it?
Yep. Yep.
Put on by 1890. So it's going to be, I think, the first fully padded practice. I've heard though that they added pads, yesterday. Usually 2 or 3 days before they pad up. But they're working hard, man. I mean, they're practicing 5-6 days a week. So I think Sunday's the only day that they're getting off right now, and it's going to stay that way, I think, until like game week of Cincinnati. So like Matt Rule's working these guys hard, which he always does. So, but check out the Big Red Preview. You obviously have to be in Nebraska, buy tickets to the stadium. But we are going to have our coffee with Husker Big Red tomorrow morning. So we'll give that a little bit of a preview, and then yeah, on Monday we will wrap up what we kind of see in the Big Red Preview on Saturday. So it's should be a nice glimpse. I think there'll be some decent nuggets coming out of there. I mean, the running back position will be one to watch,
Yeah.
obviously, and the quarterback. So I don't know, is there anything in particular you're looking out for on Saturday in that open scrimmage?
Like at the tight end position. I don't really take too much from the scrimmage, but it will be nice to see the guys in pads and hopefully a lot of fans there, obviously, because our fans are the best when it comes to support. So I just can't believe that we're talking about game month. It's game month and practices and preparation and things. So I'm excited, man. I really am excited. This offseason flew by. It felt long, but it flew by at the same time. You know what I mean?
It did, yeah. So, sorry, I accidentally hit mute when you talked at the beginning there. So, if anyone thought
No,
there
you're
was a
good. I was just
technical
saying I'm
difficulty,
excited. It's game month. I'm looking at the running back position and also Carter Nelson at the tight end position, just to
yeah,
see how he's moving because I know he's had a few injury issues. But he's looked good in the pictures that I've seen. He's put on healthy weight. He looks a lot bigger. So just how the running back position shapes up, and again how the tight end position shapes up. Either way, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for Cincinnati. I'm bummed it's a 9 p.m. my time game, but other than that, I'm ready for some football. Got some preseason football yesterday. Got our Patriots next Friday, so it's all coming together.
got what Iowa State and Kansas State and Dublin is what 3 weeks? Yeah, 3 weeks away basically. So that'll be fun. I'm glad we're not playing in that game, but I kind of wish we were so that we didn't have to wait that extra
No,
few days.
because
But
we would keep getting references to the last time we played in Dublin, and I don't want to see that.
I know it started off so well though, but anyway, so if you all right, we're off the rails now, but join us for some more off the rails Husker talk on Saturday morning. We'll be doing our chat at 7 Central Time, Facebook and YouTube. So join us for that. If you haven't already, like I said, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on the video, get into your comments section, or put your comments in there about what you think in the past week on fall camp or anything else that you want to talk about that has to do with Nebraska athletics. So, all right, you guys, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.